welcome on in. Thank you for being here. It is Midweek Connection. Everybody, go ahead and gather around and make sure that you also are greeting each other and telling each other hello on this Midweek Connection. It's an opportunity for us to get together once again. Obviously, we do our meditation practice together Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but this gives us a chance to kind of chat. And right now, we're entering a space of grace in studying the Tao Te Ching. We're looking at the Tao. Tao Te Ching means virtue of the way in Chinese, virtue of the way. And we continue to study the virtue of the way. And as I've mentioned to you before, look at nature, watch what nature is doing, and allow nature to nurture you, to guide you, to become your example. I love the opportunity that I have when I take a look at the trees. I got a chance to sit for a few moments today and watch the trees and the birds and the squirrels and all of the other animals that were around and experience what it was to just watch nature do what nature do. And it's a beautiful thing. Boy, has meditation been fantastic this week as well. Recapping a little bit of what we talked about on Sunday, because we're in what I call the season of gratitude. Every day should be a day of gratitude and thanksgiving, but during this time of year, of course, we get an opportunity to be reminded to be more grateful. It's the Thanksgiving holiday season, and for that I am thankful and grateful. Take a moment, if you would, and just sit up straight. Straighten that spine and soften the shoulders, and allow yourself to just sit in this moment. Feel the sweet presence of the Holy Spirit, which is simply that consciousness, that creative force and source from which we all come. We center ourselves right now in a sense of humility, thanksgiving, and gratitude. My soul is welcome here, and I'm thankful. So I say, Spirit of Truth, take from me whatever I don't need, bring to me what I do need, my entire being. Spirit, soul, body, mind, emotions, this computer called my brain is surrendered. May I always be flexible, fluid, surrendered to the pure presence of God. May this divine nature rise up within me even more than ever before. May any obstacle that stands in the way of me being fully me be removed. I let it go, I release, and I let go, and I surrender. Take just a moment, if you would, and say, I surrender all. I surrender all. And so it is. Take just a moment, if you would, and just stretch. Feel that wonderful, wonderful body that you have been given, the body that was created by the Creator for you to live fully alive and in your complete and total potential, rising to the highest level of consciousness that you have in the world. And what the world needs is more of you being you. All right, let's look at Tao Te Ching. We are actually looking at verse 65. But before we do that, I want to go back to this simple statement that we made on Sunday. And I was reminded of this earlier today, and I really like it. When eating fruit, remember the one who planted the tree. When eating fruit, remember the one who planted the tree. And enough is a feast. Enough is a feast. So today we say thank you, thank you, thank you, sweet presence. Thank you, God. Thank you, divine source. for enough. And may I recognize when enough is enough. All right. Looking at verse 65 of the Tao, and if I was going to title this evening, I would title this Kiss. Live life like a kiss. Keep it simple, sweetie. Verse 65 of Tao, and it says, in ancient times, those who followed the way did not try to give people knowledge, but kept them ignorant. People are difficult to rule because of their knowledge. To rule by knowledge ravages the country. To rule not by knowledge blesses the country. To understand these two is to have precept. To always have precept is called profound virtue. Profound virtue is indeed deep and wide. It leads all things back to the great order. And I like to summate this verse with really living from the place of I don't know. Because it sounds like here they're trying to keep them stupid so that they can rule them. I don't like the term rule, and I don't know that Lao Tzu used the word rule as much as Lao Tzu maybe used the word lead. But sometimes it is hard to lead people who think they know everything. And it's even harder when the leader thinks they know everything as well. And so to me, true spiritual leadership is not ever pointing to a group of truths and telling you what to see, but simply asking you to see what is there. Teachers, the best teachers in the world, are not teachers who tell you what to see, but who invite you to open your eyes. You know, the question I've asked many times, and it's an old Zen question, if a man points at the moon, will you look at the finger that's pointing or the moon? You know, Jesus pointed us, the great master pointed us toward living as the I am, and yet so many worship Jesus and fail to follow through with their Christed nature. We are all one in Christ. We all have the Christ nature within us. And many of us are not taking responsibility for that space or taking up that space because religion has essentially said you're less than what you are. And that's not what you're going to hear here. At One Love Spirit Center, our focus is to raise the vibration and the consciousness of the planet by raising us all up to the fullest potential that we are. I would assume that I'm in somewhat a leader. And in being a leader, I can tell you that I really don't desire to be as much as I've just turned out to be, which may sound odd to you, but anyone who's been around me for very long knows that I mean this when I say it. I really do take on the position very, very lightly, because the truth is that I mentioned this last Sunday at Unity of Birmingham, actually. I said I had someone ask me recently for advice, and my response was, why would I want to add to your vices? I mean, that's sort of the way I live my life as it pertains to leadership. I just want us to all walk each other home. But in some ways, I've apparently been called to be somewhat of a ringleader when it comes to those kinds of things. But I take it very seriously, and I invite us into the unknown, not into the knowing. As I've mentioned to you before, I know is a blind spot. Thinking that I know something is a blind spot. In fact, Pastor D.E. and I have talked about this repeatedly. He's the pastor and the founder of Spirit and Truth Sanctuary in Decatur, Georgia. That we're not really teachers as much as we're pointers. We're ones who point. So it's not that I have come with the ability to teach you anything, but really just to remind you of what you already know. And so the things that I say that resonate with your soul and sometimes make you want to say amen and other times make you want to say, oh me, and it sometimes give you tears in your eyes, that's because your soul is resonating with a vibration that it recognizes from the foundation of the world. And it recognizes before the foundation of the world in eternity. But I do want us to look at a couple of things here, and this is something that I found interesting in the back of the Stephen Mitchell translation of this, and I like what he says here in summation. Kindly taught them to not know. And that's in the original language of this particular verse. The ancient masters taught them the supreme value of don't know mind, which is forever fresh, open, and fertile with possibilities. Another word for this in Zen or in Zen Buddhism would be a beginner's mind, keeping a beginner's mind. Allowing yourself, or not allowing yourself is maybe the better terminology, not allowing yourself to become too overly developed in the knowledge of your spiritual journey, that you miss the experience. Because just because I can explain something doesn't mean I'm still experiencing that something. Because typically when you get to the place where you can explain something, you've kind of already figured it out, or at least you think you've figured it out. One of the worst things that I think we can ever do is to think we've figured it out. In fact, I encourage people to not think that you have it figured out. Because if you think you have it figured out, then you don't. It has you figured out, and now it has fooled you. The beginner's mind is so important, keeping ourselves elastic, keeping ourselves moldable and shapeable, keeping ourselves from falling into the trap of a know-it-all kind of mentality. I've gone to churches and gone to places, spiritual communities, and gotten up to share, and I could tell there was an energy in the room already of, well, bless me if you can. And the sense in me was to just want to get up and say, I have nothing that I can say to you that really is going to make any difference to you. I hope that you have a good rest of the week. God bless you, and goodbye. Because many times we've gotten our heads so wrapped up in the concepts that we lose the fluidity of how the presence is really moving. The way of knowing is to live without force. The way of truly knowing is to say, I don't know, is to let go of this idea that I've figured it out. Intellectually, intelligently, it's wonderful to have an intelligent approach to spirituality, but let's be careful that we don't think we've mastered it. This is one of the reasons that when I hear someone referred to as a Zen master, I think to myself, well, if that person believes they are a Zen master, then they've really mastered nothing, because Zen would tell you there's no such thing. Mastery is the ability to hold something as a slave or a captive. And Zen, the very idea of Zen is for everything to be open-ended and loose and allowed to just flow. And that's the purpose of what we're here to do as well. So verse 1 is the KISS method. Keep it simple, sweetie. And I wrote a couple of things down I wanted to share with you. Number 1, be willing to say, I don't know. Because you need to remember that I know can become a blind spot. So this is really because Lao Tzu was writing this in the warring dynasties in China. And he was writing this so that leaders would stop fighting with each other and killing each other, and stop killing their own people and oppressing their own people, and start living more peaceably. So if you happen to be a leader of a country, or a leader in a state, or a leader in government at all, and you're watching this, then I would ask you to begin to lead from this space of I don't know, because it leaves you wide open to all the possibilities. But let's bring it down into maybe less complex terms into your everyday life as a parent. Leading your children with, I don't know. Being able to say to your children, I don't know, is empowering. It doesn't take away from your power. I would have rathered my parents say I don't know about something than to give me a BS answer and it be the wrong answer. Does that make sense to anyone? The powerful ability to be humble enough to say I don't know opens you up to all of the possibilities. Be willing to and able to say I don't know, and simply allow the intelligence of the eternal to flow to, through, and as you. When you say, I don't know, in humility, you are open now to the eternal presence to flow to, through, and now as you. It takes wisdom to say, I don't know. Knowledge will try to make you put you in a corner to make something up so that you don't look stupid. People think they look stupid if they say, I don't know. I say that you enter into stupidity by saying you do know when you don't. This keeps you blind and it keeps you in ignorance. But being able to say, I don't know, simply, let's work this out together. Let's go along together. Not necessarily having to, in fact, I'll say it this way, and then I'll move on to the second point. I have gotten to the place in my life where I don't consider myself one to have answers. Answers to me, answers are too rigid, and they're too absolute. They're too concrete. So to keep fluidity going, typically, and you'll find that I do this, some may come up and say, I have a quick question. And a lot of times I'll say, being funny, well, I may have a quick answer. Now I'm shifting myself toward, instead of saying I may have a quick answer, I'll say I don't have any answers, but I might have a response. I don't have any answers, but I might have a response. It's not beating yourself down. This is opening yourself up to the intelligence of the ages and the sages, to the wisdom of the universe, to be able to say, I don't know. Number 2. And these are the 2 things I get from this particular verse. 1, I don't know, and being able to lead with I don't know. And number 2, practice simplicity. Keep life as uncomplicated as you can. Now, some right now feel like your life is like a ball of yarn. Or it feels like your life is like spaghetti. It's all wound up together and there's a whole lot going on there. So how do I begin to be more simplistic with my life? Well, one of the things you can do is the first thing that comes to mind that is causing you stress. Remember, tension invites our attention so that we can set a what? A new intention. So the tension is inviting you to take a look. Wherever you see the tension or you see the stress, go ahead and just stop that immediately. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't look at it and say, okay, this is something that apparently matters to my particular situation. I don't want to chase this rabbit too far, but let's go here for a second. If you want to make a cup of tea, apparently it matters to get water and a tea bag. Okay? Now, some people say, well, what's so deep about that? Apparently that matters. In the grand scheme of things, though, it doesn't really matter. But if you want a cup of tea, apparently you're going to need to use a tea bag and a cup of water. So when I say matters, I'll come back to there's some things that may matter, apparently do matter to you in your life. But do your best to, at the moment you feel the stress or the tension, to drop it so that you can see it from a different angle. And let intuition guide you. Instead of going at it from every single corner. Somebody's listening right now who is stressed and anxious about everything that happens. It doesn't matter what it is. There's got to be something more to this than it just happened. The wind blew a certain way. There's got to be more to it than that. I've got an ache in my belly. I must have cancer. You know, people who jump automatically toward these real complex and terrible things. I'm asking you to train yourself in a different direction, to be able to understand that sometimes things just happen. They're not necessarily happening to you, they're just happening and you happen to be in the way of it at the time when it takes place. Instead of thinking it's all a conspiracy, the universe is not conspiring against you. The universe is conspiring, if anything, with you. So instead of coming at things from an angle of, I've got to fully figure this out before I can go any further, allow intuition to jump in and go with that first instinct that takes place. Let me share this. Let me share this quote with you to maybe simplify what I'm saying right now. Don't pole vault over mouse turds. Yes, I said it here. Don't pole vault over mouse turds. For those of you who don't know what pole vaulting is, from what I understand, it's that Olympic pole vaulting when they run up toward a really high bar, and they call it setting the bar high, and they pole vault several feet in the air to get over a high bar. But how many of you are finding yourself pole vaulting over mouse turds, rodent droppings? There's no need to make a situation more complex than it needs to be, and yet so often, instead of going with our intuitive abilities and going with our ability to say, I don't know, releasing it to the universe, which then brings you into a space of surrender and then asks the universe for wisdom and understanding. Instead of doing that so often, we're trying to figure out how to leap over the rodent droppings of life. Now, that's just a little bit of a humorous way to say, in other words, live simply. Instead of analyzing the situation to death, learn to trust your intuition and follow your instincts. From the inside out comes the wisdom of the ages and the sages to carry you through. So, number one, be willing to say, I don't know. Live from that space of humility. Lead from that space of humility. And number two, practice simplicity. Keep life uncomplicated. And for the sake of us all, stop pole vaulting over mouse turds. What a spiritual way to end this evening. Keep it simple. When you're dealing with your relationships, as a parent, when you find yourself trying to force a point. In fact, here's a thought. I did this one time with Ashton and Brianna when they were younger. The boy's mother and I had already parted ways. We'd separated, and the girls were going to be there by themselves. They were 16 and 17, somewhere around there. We're going to be at the house by themselves for a day or two. I made sure there was food in the house. I made sure that they had the things they were going to need and asked them to make sure to stick together. And of course, I would have my phone on me. And I said this, I trust you to be responsible, to take care of this home and each other while I'm gone. Instead of a list of rules of don't do this, make sure you're home at this time, don't do that, don't do the other. It was, I trust you to take care of this home and yourselves till I get back. That is, to a degree, part of what I'm talking about. Leading from a place of simplicity. Every force creates a counter force. So let go of forcing your will on anyone else, and you'll notice that life doesn't push back on you. In fact, say these words real quick. I'm loving life, and life is loving me in return. Therefore, I live with ease, comfort, joy, and love. And so it is. And so it is. So again, in summation, be willing to say, I don't know, and practice simplicity. Practice simplicity. Thank you, as always, for being here in this space. I love you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again in the morning for our morning meditation. Also, don't forget, this Sunday, we're going to be together at the Club House on Highland Avenue in Birmingham, Alabama. It's in the Highland area of Birmingham, downtown Birmingham. This Sunday, 9 o'clock is when our physical gathering will happen. Of course, that's Central Time. Eastern Time, our regular live stream will play for everyone who is not able to be there in person. Although if you're able to be there in person, please come on and hang with us on Sunday, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. at the Clubhouse on Highland, which is 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for the live stream for anyone who is on this side of the United States. Then the following Saturday, the 20th, we're going to be at Thistle Farms in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. The flyer for that information is on our Facebook page. It's also in our Facebook chat room. If you want to be a part of the Facebook chat room, hit me up and let me know. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in person that are able to make it on Sunday, and looking forward to seeing everyone who's engaged online. Listen, stay engaged online though. Continue to comment, continue to like the page, share the live stream. We're going to be getting together in person a lot more often, but let's keep ourselves engaged with the whole world. We're not just based in Birmingham, all right? We are based in the universe. We're a light in the universe and a light to this world that we live in. I love you all so much, and I want to say thank you for joining me this evening. And I want to ask you to go and make it a great evening, because you can. Peace.